How compassion and empathy reduce stress and anxiety. Dear ladies, I'm sure that many of you have also gone through stress situations at work or in private environment. We know that stress is a killer. You might even hear someone say, "The stress at work is killing me." Yes, they could be overstating their situation. Still, in many cases, stress can literally kill you. Chronic stress is related to the 6 leading causes of death. It's believed that more than 75% of all trips to the emergency room or a doctor are stress-related. So the next time a friend tells you stress is killing her, you might want to take that statement seriously. Ask anyone you know, and they'll tell you of a stressful situation they have recently experienced. This, sadly, is a common occurrence today. You may also have too much stress in your own life. For a number of reasons, you can benefit from stressing less and relaxing more often. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, I may just have something for you today to help you do that. But before moving on with this video, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to the channel and click the notification icon button so that you can be notified when the next video is published. How empathy reduces less stress and depression. An empathetic person can place themselves in the emotional experience of someone else. That's the first part of empathy. The part of the empathetic process some people often forget is responding in a helpful manner. Maybe you see a coworker has a huge workload, she's stressing out, and you know there's no possible way she can hit a proposed deadline. You communicate to her that even though her productivity is excellent and she's a great worker, you don't know how she's going to get everything done. You just paid her a compliment. You saw her emotions were frazzled and she wasn't mentally in a good place. So you said something nice about her ability on the job. The next thing you can do after you identify with her situation is to provide assistance. You could perhaps offer to help her tackle some of her responsibilities. When you do, your coworker will thank you. She'll experience less stress, and emotionally you'll also have less stress, anxiety, and depression. When you learn to recognize that someone else is experiencing negative emotions, you want to help. This is the response for most people. What also happens is that you subconsciously recognize that you're not in that situation. You can understand your coworker's emotional stress, but you aren't experiencing the same thing yourself. Dr. Jamil Zaki, a psychology professor and the director of the Social Neuroscience Laboratory in Stanford, says empathy can help you see past the many differences people have. It helps you move past prejudice or bias. These are negative emotions that can evoke a stress response in your body. Empathy doesn't allow that to develop. Dr. Zaki also says empathy makes people happier in their relationships and even more successful at work. Studies show that an empathetic person learns how to process his or her own emotions properly by being able to recognize the emotions other people are going through. That means being more empathetic in your life can not only help others, but it can also give you a wonderful boost of less stress and more peace of mind. It has been scientifically proven that when you're compassionate, every part of your physiology works better. You're happier, more thoughtful, and more open. On the physiological level, your heart rate decreases, your blood pressure also decreases. Your cortisol level, which impacts your stress hormone, reduces, and your immune system gets boosted. Here's a great story to illustrate the incredible power of empathy and how it can positively impact your stress level. The empathy experiment. In the bustling city of Harmonia, where the skyscrapers kissed the clouds and the streets never slept, there was a small, quaint bookstore named Whispers of Wisdom. It was run by an elderly woman named Martha, whose gentle demeanour and wise eyes had a way of making anyone feel at home. One dreary Monday morning, the doorbell rang, and a frazzled young man named Jake stumbled in. His hair was untidy, his tie was askew, and he had dark circles under his eyes. He collapsed into a chair by the window, sighing heavily. Martha, observing from behind the counter, could sense the weight of the young man's stress. Martha approached Jake with a steaming cup of chamomile tea. "You look like you could use this," she said softly, placing the cup in front of him. Jake looked up, his eyes meeting Martha's kind gaze. "Thank you," he murmured, taking a grateful sip. "It's been a rough day. Actually, a rough few months." Martha pulled up a chair and sat down across from him. Would you like to talk about it? She asked. Her voice was gentle but genuine. Jake hesitated, then nodded. It's work. I'm a project manager, and we're behind on a major deadline. The pressure is immense, and my team is falling apart. I don't know how to handle it all. Martha listened intently, her eyes never leaving his. She could see the exhaustion etched on his face and hear the despair in his voice. It sounds incredibly challenging, she said empathetically. Sometimes when we're under so much pressure, we forget that everyone around us might be feeling the same way. Jake blinked, surprised. I guess I've been so focused on the project and my own stress that I haven't considered how my team is coping. Martha smiled warmly. Empathy can be a powerful tool, Jake. It can transform a stressful environment into one of support and understanding. Have you tried talking to your team about how they're feeling? Jake shook his head. No, I've been too caught up in the deadlines to think about that. Martha leaned slightly towards him and said, Why don't you gather your team together and have an open, honest conversation? Share your own struggles and encourage them to share theirs. It might help relieve some of the tension and bring you all closer together. Inspired by Martha's words, Jake decided to give it a try. The next day, he called a team meeting, not in the sterile conference room, but in a nearby park under the shade of an ancient oak tree. The atmosphere was relaxed, and the team members appreciated the change of scenery. Jake began the meeting by sharing his own stress and anxiety about the project. He talked about the sleepless nights and the overwhelming pressure. As he spoke, he noticed the expressions on his team's faces soften. Then he invited them to share their own experiences and feelings. At first, there was silence. Then, one by one, they began to open up. Sarah, the lead developer, admitted she was struggling with balancing work and taking care of her elderly mother. Michael, the designer, confessed that he was dealing with severe burnout and was afraid of letting everyone down. As each team member shared their burdens, a sense of solidarity and understanding began to form. They realized they were not alone in their struggles, and this realization lifted a huge weight off their shoulders. Empathy flowed freely, and the team's bond grew stronger. They brainstormed solutions together, redistributing tasks to alleviate the pressure on those who were struggling the most. They also decided to implement regular check-ins to ensure everyone felt supported. The atmosphere shifted from one of stress and fear to one of cooperation and mutual support. Weeks passed, and the project progressed smoothly. The deadline was met, but more importantly, the team had transformed. They were no longer just co-workers. They had become a close-knit group who genuinely cared for one another. Jake often found himself thinking back to that day in whispers of wisdom and the wise words of Martha. He decided to visit her again, this time with a bouquet of flowers and a heartfelt thank you. When he walked into the bookstore, Martha greeted him with a warm smile. "You look much better, Jake," she said. "I am," Jake replied, handing her the flowers. "Thank you for your advice. It made all the difference." Martha's eyes twinkled with kindness. Sometimes, all it takes is a little empathy to turn things around. As Jake left the bookstore, he felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. He had learned the true power of empathy and how it could transform not just a stressful situation, but also the lives of those involved. And in the heart of Harmonia, amidst the hustle and bustle, a small bookstore continued to be a beacon of wisdom and warmth for all who sought it. So ladies, what are your thoughts? Have you used empathy to help others transform a stressful situation at any time? If so, what happened? Share your comments below and let's get this conversation going. Thank you for watching, and remember to share the video, click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you would like to receive more tips on ways to be more congruent with your surroundings and attain your utmost best with less stress. My wish is that you remain empathetic and let accumulated stress dissolve into nothingness. Have a splendid day, and until next time, cheerio.